what I really wanted, I knew in my life, like I wanted to design my own life. Like I wanted to, as opposed to designing bags, I wanted to design the way that I lived and how I lived. And I don't have a day that's exactly the same ever. So that's one of the biggest things. But I noticed when I did take that full-time leap, like my sales went up through the roof. And because I invested in myself, I took that risk on myself. I bet on myself.
Hey there, I'm so happy that you are here. Welcome to the Power of Why podcast. You are about to watch an interview with an unconventional woman in business. These are women that inspire me every single day by doing the work that they love, living out their why. So make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for updates when new videos come out, and make sure to connect with me on social so that you can be a part of the journey. See you later. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 11 of the Power of Why podcast. My name is Naomi and today I am joined by Xiomara. So I'm incredibly excited. You're located in California and we connected via Instagram actually. I saw the amazing work that you were doing and felt like I really had to connect with you. So you started UnoEth in February 2015 and have been working on growing this business for, the past 4 years full time. It's a father-daughter brand based in Oakland, California, and you basically partner with artisans in Ethiopia to craft like really classic pieces. I've had a chance to take a look at the leather bags and the different accessories that you create, and they are so beautiful. I really love the story of how you and your father started UnoEth. It was very organic in its inception and growth. So I'd really love for you to share, your story in that. Talk about what inspired you both to start.
Sure, no problem. One, thank you so much, Naomi, for having me on your podcast. This is awesome. And so we started UnoEth, like you said, February 2015. And full time for me, August 2017. So we started, I was working at Pottery Barn as a buyer, and my dad went to Ethiopia to go visit family. And on his way back, he had brought over a custom-made leather messenger bag as a gift. And I thought, this is a perfect bag. It's great for me to go to work, and it's hands-free, and great for me because I had to commute from Oakland to San Francisco every day.
Which is how far?
Which is like an hour. And I had to take multiple modes of transportation. I had to take couch, carpool. So I got in cars with strangers. And then I walked a mile. And then on the way back, I walked a mile again. And then I took BART, which is the kind of subway system we have here in the Bay Area. And then I walked again. It was great. And along my journey, my strangers would stop me on the street and ask where I got the bag. I had to tell them, it's custom made in Ethiopia. You can't buy it. And my friends and coworkers, they kept asking me where the bag come from. They loved it, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, what is going on with this bag? Like, it's a very simple and classically styled bag. I mean, it's an awesome bag. And so it was just happening over and over again all the time. And the same thing kept happening to my dad because he got a similar bag for himself. And so he's like, hey, why don't we start a business? And I was like, at the time I was like, okay, you're crazy because I'm working for this Fortune 500 publicly traded company, corporate, and working my tail off for hours and I just don't have the time. So time kept passing again, another month, and we still kept getting all these questions about the bag and where we got it. And then our friends and family started asking, hey, can we place pre-orders the next time your dad goes to Ethiopia?
Right. Yeah.
You guys are starting this business kind of for us. I was like, okay, fuck it. We're just going to do it. And so my dad reached out to the artisan that he bought the bag from, and we sent him designs of the bag. I just basically sketched out what we kind of wanted and what the dimensions were. And
this was the bag that you already had, right? That you wanted to...
Yeah, they wanted the bag that I already had. Some did say maybe a little bigger so they could fit their laptop in.
Right.
So I was like, okay, we can just make it a little bigger, no problem. And And so then we sent over the designs. He sent over samples. We went back and forth on like finishing. So say for like zippers and all that kind of stuff. And we got about like 10 to 15 pre-orders from friends and family. Wow. And so my dad went back to Ethiopia, came back with suitcases full of leather bags, and we sold them. And then they told their friends, and so we had more orders. I'm like, wait, this isn't even a real.
You haven't even, like sat down and think about it at this point.
Yeah.
Right?
So then we just sat down and just like, okay, what's our name? I was like, well, how about UnoEth? Uno meaning one and Eth for Ethiopia. And it kind of symbolizes me and my dad reaching back to our roots in Ethiopia, partnering with artisans in Addis and becoming one in that sense. And so I scheduled a photo shoot with the samples we got, and I created a website all by myself. And then we started going to like markets and shows and started Instagram, and people started to reach out to us and asking us about how they can carry our bags in their stores and then online orders. And so it just got to a point where I couldn't do a full-time job and my business at that point. And like, I really wanted to see where we could go. And like really take it to the max. And I've always wanted to work for myself. So yeah.
This was the perfect opportunity to do so, right?
Absolutely. With my dad, and with something that I loved and something that made me feel good too.
Yeah. So that process from when your father came, back from Ethiopia with that gift for you, to the point where you've actually been, having people approach you and ask you for if they could have a bag as well. What was the period? Was it a few months? Was it a year until, your father went back to Ethiopia to bring all those bags back?
6 months.
6 months. Okay.
6 months from
like, pretty quick.
We got back to people, 6 months, because it was from, I would say like August he got back, and then like February was when we officially launched our website. So 6-7 months. Yeah.
And a lot of moving pieces. I think, does your father also live in California?
He lives in Sacramento, which is an hour and a half from me, from Oakland. So he does live in Oakland, or in California.
In California. Okay. And there are a lot of moving pieces. I mean, you talked about, getting the right measurements for the, the early stage bags that you wanted to order from back home, coordinating with local artisans. There seems to be a lot of moving pieces, especially in the early days. And I know you graduated with a degree in marketing. You specialize in marketing, business administration. And I don't know if you learned anything regarding entrepreneurship and, starting your own venture. So what was the learning curve like for you when you were first starting out?
So I with my career, I've worked for both like big companies and also small businesses too. So while I work for small businesses, you kind of have to have like an entrepreneur like mindset, and like how to start things from scratch. And in like my courses, like at SF State, there were like entrepreneurship like courses and classes, but I also do come from like a family of entrepreneurs. My mom's an entrepreneur. My grandma is an entrepreneur too. So that was just kind of like ingrained in like my DNA. But they're like learning how to register your business, like what type of business you're going to be, a sole proprietorship, partnership, LLC. So those are all things that you have to like, that you encounter as you go and as you grow. Like we didn't know how to import goods, like fill out an import entry form with the customs department. Like I had to go on my lunch break and go over and work it out with somebody, and how to fill out that form. And when our orders started getting bigger and bigger, I just hired somebody else to do it, because it's just like my time and their expertise. They could do it so much faster.
Right.
For $150, sure, yes. Then I would rather like sacrifice that headache. So there are things that you just like encounter, like that you just, and you can see them as obstacles because you just never encounter them. You have to like ask questions. So you have to like know where to look, and know, and also just like ask questions to look up like via like Google or like your other, and then other thing is like you find other entrepreneurs that are like doing the same thing you do too. So there's a whole bunch of resources out there if you simply like look
for it.
Yeah.
100%, especially with the internet. It's insane the amount of information that's out there. So knowing where to look. I like the idea of reaching out to folks who are already doing, what you're doing. I mean, there's a lot of time that can be saved when you don't necessarily, you don't need to reinvent the wheel when it comes to that, those small details. And you had already built, you already had a career with different types of experiences. So you mentioned delegating and, bringing in people who could do it faster. So how fast did you get comfortable with, handing off responsibilities for your own business?
I will say that I'm still a work in progress in that, because I still do a lot of work myself, partially because of the cost savings.
Yeah.
When it comes to like hiring a customs clearance company to clear my goods from with customs, like that was something that I had to learn. And I was like thinking, the time it takes me to learn how to fill out this form correctly and have to submit it to customs within their own working hours and all that kind of stuff, I was like, I'm going to save myself a lot more time. But I did learn how to delegate more when I hired my first assistant. His name is Lake, and he's awesome. And was like a friend first, so that was easier. But I think like it just came in with my previous work experiences and working with associates or with working with interns too. So it was such a huge help. Like because I've worked in advertising, I've worked in like small businesses as a buyer. I've worked like around college when I was a sales associate to like being a VIP host at a club. Like there's just so many different ranges that they all kind of like tie in together. And
really helped you. Yeah, for sure. And what are you hoping to, what are you striving to achieve in this business? When did you feel, because it comes from, I think, a very personal spot, especially the Ethiopian component to that. So what are you and your father hoping to achieve with this business?
At the end of the day, what I really enjoy is that, like, when we went to visit a couple years ago, meet with our vendor, he was so excited for us to come and visit and see his new workshop, because he's like the same age as I am, like 31. We kind of helped each other grow our business at the same time. Like when he needed help, he would lean on me. When I needed help, he would lean on me. And he had this like brand new workshop and has like 4 to 6 like employees, like crafting, not just for us, but he also has other international clients too, from Canada or Portugal. It really resonated well with me because like we were his very first clients and customers, and we are the ones that helped him launch his business. And so that is like, at the end of the day, what my dad and I like strive to do, is to keep duplicating that business model of helping other artisans start their own businesses and hire other artisans at the same time, and to see us all win, and to see like our orders grow from like $500 like to $10,000, which is like just a big thing that he's just like, this is amazing, this is great, I'm really excited. And we also went to Zanzibar last year. While we went to Ethiopia, went to Zanzibar. I'm like, let's do this again. So we partnered with a woman who sold handmade brass and silver cuffs, or just jewelry instead. So we partnered with her and like we fostered that kind of relationship as well. So the goal that my dad and I want to do is to keep duplicating this business model around the world for other artisans, women of color, and just a range of different departments too. So when it comes to apparel, to footwear, to home decor, I think that's where I really, really want us to grow and go, and grow online. And I also love like curating and amazing like experiences, because part of like when you come to like one of our pop-ups is that you get to see our leather goods and smell the leather and touch and feel how soft it is, which is something that like I just love every experience for. So I want to keep doing that, keep growing that side of our business.
I love the partnerships that you have engaged with. How do you? Okay, you said you want to duplicate that type of business model. So when you're traveling, you always have an eye out for cool pieces that really align with your brand. And how do you approach them with this business opportunity?
So we were in Zanzibar. I met this woman. She was like, man, it was her family shop, and she had just had amazing pieces. And I was like, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
I want two of those. So she kept seeing, like, I was like, oh, she's trying to buy a lot. And then I just asked her, like, do you ship overseas? Do you like import, export? I just asked questions.
Yeah.
And she was just a very sweet woman. Her name is Faiza. And so that's how I kind of approach it. And then I just take their business info, and then we just connect again via email or WhatsApp or Viber, like whatever type of
communication tool.
Right?
Yep.
Where the internet can go. And yeah, that's how I foster those relationships. Very organic, and yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit about business differentiation, and what do you believe that is a key thing that makes UnoEth kind of stand out? Because when people were approaching you before you and your father launched this business, it seemed like these are not products that they had seen before. Beautiful, like just classic pieces, I think, that go really well with whatever you're wearing. So what do you feel is a key differentiator, amongst other products?
I think the simplicity of it, and we don't have our logo on the outside. Like, you won't know until you look on the inside of the bag.
Yeah.
And I think that, like you said, that was very classic and simple, like aesthetic, that like a range of different, and that's the funny thing about like our customers, like they range from like 18 to like 70, and both men and women, of all ethnic backgrounds, of all different kind of like style aesthetics too, and taste. So I think that because it can match or go with a bunch of different people is like one of the reasons why people kept approaching us about it. Also just like the color of the leather. Like, we have this one color that's like I call it light gray. It's also like stone. It's kind of taupe, but you don't see that kind of gray color very often. Also, I have like a Nile blue. You don't see a lot of blue leather out there. But also the way that like our walnut color patinas over time, it gets really rich and warm as you start to wear it in the rain. The way that it absorbs like the sun, the way that it absorbs, like I've spilled barbecue sauce on it, and like I just simply cleaned it with like warm water mild soap, and it's gone the next day. So I think it's just kind of like the quality of the leather that kind of like really shows through, and you don't have to do it with studs or like all sorts of jazzy things. As much as I love those, but for different types of looks, but for an everyday classic and casual kind of bag, like this is what I wear.
You also on your website highlighted how every piece is unique, and because they're handmade. Do you think that also plays a piece into it?
I think so too. Yeah, definitely, because like each shade is like one Nile blue bag and another Nile blue bag. They might be different by like a percent. Like one could be a little darker, one could be a little lighter. So you can never really fully get exactly the same kind of thing. So, and some like leathers, I mean, it is a skin, so you will see different like different markings that are different from the hide. So yeah, and as you wear it too, like as you can see like the kind of like journey that you go on, like where you've gone. So like your travel companion for real.
Love it. Xiomara, what are some of the things that really surprised you about being a business owner, working for yourself?
Some things that were really surprised me was that I struggle with organization. I feel like I have to live by like my calendar, like what is actually in my calendar, then I will know like exactly what I'm doing. That keeps
Even
me
organizing this episode.
right. I was like, wait, it's not on my calendar. Oh my God. Like I need to confirm that it's happening.
Love it.
Like every morning I have like a power hour, I call it. So I wake up at like 6:30 and I do like a 20-minute meditation followed by like I write in my gratitude journal of everything that I'm grateful for, and then I work out. Like those are the 3 things I need, at least 2 out of 3 that I need to do to like set my day to be like as effective and positive and focused as possible. So I think one of the things that surprised me is like I really need to be like super on top of my self-organization and that kind of stuff. And I think that's the one of the things that most surprised me for sure.
And were there any, like with regards to taking risks and risk-taking, tell me about one that worked out really great for you and maybe one that didn't work out so well, and what you learned from both. Because I'm sure that, you know, in this journey, there are so many highs and, you know, as well as lows. And you said that you were basically like learning as you went with your father. So talk about some of the risk aspects.
The biggest risk I took was leaving my full-time job and becoming a full-time entrepreneur. That is huge because like when you have a paycheck, like that is your biggest like security net. Like, okay, I can still pay my bills and pay for my mortgage and have health insurance and have someone to contribute to my 401k. So that was my biggest risk that I took, and it was the biggest payoff because not only did I become incredibly like much happier because I was like doing what I wanted and not being told what to do, which is kind of one of the things I didn't like, that I realized about myself. I'm like, I don't like being told what to do. And that literally like kind of the sky is like, there is no limit to what you want to do. And you can, what I really wanted, I knew in my life, like I wanted to design my own life. Like I wanted to, as opposed to designing bags, I wanted to design the way that I lived and how I lived. And I don't have a day that's exactly the same ever. So that's one of the biggest things. But I noticed when I did take that full-time leap, like my sales went up through the roof. And because I invested in myself, I took that risk on myself. I bet on myself, which is something that was like the biggest thing that a lot of people don't do because it's scary. It's really scary. But once you do it and you just like swimming, you're just like getting your feet like wet and you're trying to keep your head above water, like you get used to it. You know what I mean? And then then you're floating. You know what I mean? It just gets easier and easier. One of the biggest risks that I took that failed was investing like almost $8,000 into Google AdWords recently. And this was in part of like our strategies to grow online. And that was terrible. Like it did not work out for us very well at all. So yeah, there are some things that like you're going to try. You have to try everything because then like you will never know. Like, good thing it's a tax write-off because it's an expense.
Marketing expense.
Right. Sure, we got lots of traffic from it, but in terms of like conversions, they're like very minimal. So, I think that's just like you have to test everything, you know, and that's just like one of the things about like growing a business. And you're gonna take L's. Everyone is going to take an L. Like Diddy just posted a video about how he took L's all 2018. Like, and that made me feel so much better in a sense. I mean, in terms of like even billionaires do.
Yeah, of course. So, and I think with social media especially, it's almost like you get a curated view on people's lives, right? And the belief or the idea that people don't. And I don't like to use the word fail because I think you learn from all those experiences and it informs how you would keep going and iterating. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try the next thing. So
Yeah, I think it's definitely not a unique thing. And as soon as you got comfortable, and you were talking about, being able to swim in that experience, but what were some of the things that you were telling yourself before you decided to take the jump? Because of course it was, a risk, and you weren't going to get that steady paycheck, but
so the things I did to prep myself before taking the jump was making sure that I had like at least 6 months of like savings.
right. Yeah.
My life, my livelihood, for food, for car note, for all that kind of stuff. So I had to make sure I did do that, and then I forecasted what we were going to do the next 6 months as well. I also did a crowdfund for $10,000, and that helped like propel our business too.
Amazing.
And like the basis of it is to have a plan. You can't just be all like, oh, I'm just going to quit my job and be all willy-nilly and whatever.
Yeah.
And if like shit really hit the fan and it wasn't working, like I could like Uber, like be an Uber driver or Lyft or something like that. Like that's another thing I could do like around my schedule. And I just like would try every single thing before like getting another job. I mean, I'm very employable, but
yes, exactly. Because I think before, it seems like you attacked every fear with logic and reason, and you weren't jumping in blindly. But even though you didn't necessarily know what was going to be on the other side of that jump, there was still a blanket that you kind of set for yourself, an emergency fund, as you mentioned, which is so powerful. Xiomara, like you talked about how it has just brought you so much more happiness in your life to be able to control your lifestyle and do the things that you want to be doing every day. So honestly, kudos.
Thank you so much. I mean, I will say it's not like all roses and unicorns. Like there will be days like, fuck, what did I do? Like I need to go back and like email my boss. There are gonna be some days where you're gonna be like, did I make the right decision? Crap, blah blah blah. Like there are gonna be days where you're gonna be stressed and super anxious. Like sometimes you will stay up all night like thinking, did I make the wrong decision? And I think it's also like a matter of having faith that like things will work out the way that you want them to, and you have to put in the work to make sure it does get there. Like everything, you have to put your entire life on the line to make things work. So yeah, and don't be afraid of failure, because everyone's gonna fail like the rest of your life. Like that is 100% guaranteed.
Yeah.
But it's just all about like the lessons you learning from everything, those two. So celebrate every win.
No matter how small, for sure.
Right. Exactly.
And a theme that I kind of hear is that, a lot of the times it's kind of lonely, when you're starting on this new venture. And although you do have a business partner, how did you deal with the loneliness, and maybe talk about your support network, your support system, and how important that is?
It's funny. I was just telling one of my friends a lot of my friends are not in business. Like they're teachers. They work for the government. They do real estate, like not like retail, not business. Or I didn't even have that many like marketing friends, to be honest, until I started like working in that career. But when I started doing pop-ups and like markets and trade shows and stuff is when I started to meet other business owners of different brands. That is when I started to build my network. And then we kind of like created this kind of like little group of friends and that we like collaborate with. And a lot of collaborations are really great too. So partnering with store owners to do pop-ups and stuff like that. And that's how we share like knowledge and resources. There are so that is how like I cured like my loneliness, and because it can be a very like lonely path of like making decisions, and I'd have to reach out and like get a mentor too, and get an advisor, and because while like it's great having a partner like my dad, but he's also doesn't have that background. He's a political science professor in Sacramento. Like, he's living a very cush, like, laissez-faire life, you know. So like, he's more like, this is your business, I'm just here for support, kind of thing.
Okay.
I was like, okay, Dad. So anyway, it's just it's creating your network and like keeping them close by.
Yeah. Building a community is so important, because like you find folks who are, you know, having the same, like going through the same decision making that you would, and although they might not be the same decisions, I think the process and like sharing resources, as you mentioned, and also tips for what worked for them is also really great. Can you maybe share some like words of encouragement for folks who, you know, may feel, you know, have an idea but may feel stuck in terms of starting? Any words of encouragement that really helped you in the early days?
Sure. I would say to keep going, and keep working on it. Like, keep going, because you never know where it's going to take you, and it can morph into something else completely different that you just never really knew. And make a plan, like, and start on a business plan, even if you don't even know like kind of what that is, but get a template and start filling stuff out. And that's when the magic kind of really happens, is when you start to like brew on this idea that you have. And know that a lot of ideas that became billion-dollar businesses, people were laughed at, mocked at, like the entire time in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like in creating
like
Airbnb, MySpace, Facebook, like all those types of Snapchat. Like, I mean, those are apps, like these silly, people thought they're silly apps that became like multi-billion-dollar businesses, and companies that you can really create wonders with. And so I would say to keep going and to keep the magic happening in terms of like brainstorming and making a plan, and having someone like review it, like someone who's and don't care about what other people say, like, because they just don't really, like, not everyone knows is a fortune teller.
And no one, you know, it's tough, especially during the inception phase. No one is going to see your vision the way you do, and I think you got to protect it. You got to protect your idea for sure. So again, I'm honestly so grateful that we had a chance to chat. The last two questions I ask all my guests are, so the first one would be like, what is your go-to resource when it comes to entrepreneurship or like starting your own business, whether that's a book that you found very helpful or you know, a podcast that you listen to. You talked about mentors a lot too, so yeah.
I'm like a big advocate for using like tools. Like, it's hard in your head to like get yourself into like a mindset, you know? Like, so for me, I use tools to create like my most positive and productive and focused mindset. So with that, so say it's, I love podcasts. So I listen to like Tony Robbins podcast or Gary Vee, Girl Boss. Like, there's a bunch of different podcasts that I like circulate through, to hear what other people are doing, what like really successful people success was. One of my favorite books is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
The Power of Positivity, The Secret. Like, that was, I read that book and watched the DVD back like my sophomore year in college, and that changed my life. As cheesy as like it may seem on the DVD or like what it may be, but the law of attraction, gratitude, living a positive mindset, like those are key factors of how I live my life and what has kept me sane throughout this whole like crazy throughout my 20s. So it's using tools and kind of like, and when you read the Think and Grow Rich, like, is creating like your mastermind group of people who
Yeah.
have amazing skill sets that you don't have, that you can leverage and that you can help another person too. And yeah.
Amazing. And yeah, support network, super, super crucial. Any, you mentioned organization at the beginning and like setting. So are there any tools that help you with time management? Anything regarding, your calendar and setting your days and setting your intention?
I use my Google Calendar kind of like a Bible, so I can review. I like to review it the night before I go into my next day, so I can like make sure I have my day set.
Right.
But I put in everything, like gym, power hour, like even factor in like driving time, so that I can actually see like where my gaps are in my day, or if I have any gaps. Oh, I'm like, oh hey, I have a really free day today, because literally no day is the same. And so that's one of my biggest organizations in terms of like my schedule. Mm-hmm. Social media, I like to use Planoly.
Okay.
It's really great to use and to just like analyze like what are my like top like posts and all that kind of stuff, and analyze engagement. Those are my top.
What's doing well and what the audience is,
right.
What content resonates with your audience as well.
Like, I posted a plate of food and it was like the stats were off the charts. So I was like, okay. I was like some Angetta and some what that my aunt made in Addis. So I was like, this is amazing. You guys are really Ethiopian food. Okay, maybe it's different that people love Ethiopian culture that follow me. Maybe I should post more stuff about that, so that has my mind thinking of like different things I want to do. So yeah, so those are my top two like organization kind of things, like my Google Calendar and my Planoly.
Mm-hmm. I use my calendar and I set in everything to, by the hour. And I find like when you mentioned those gaps, for example, if I'm walking to or from somewhere or I'm on the bus, I think, using those times to, read a book, listen to a podcast are ways to just get your mind in a really good place as well.
Yeah. High frequency.
Mm-hmm. And very fitting for the Power of Why podcast is Xiomara. And I mean, there are threads throughout this whole conversation. And, with regards to what you shared, talking about why you were doing this and why you are on this journey. But, if you were to put it into a few sentences, what's your why? What do you strongly believe that you were, meant to do during your time here? What would that be?
I feel that I was truly meant to be here to empower others while empowering myself. And through my love of travel, I really believe that that's kind of like my why. And in terms also, which is another part of this is also reaching back to my roots, but also helping my family at the same time. Like my family I'm an only child. So like my family is like they're my rock. They're like my everything to me. And I do everything because I want to support my family, and support my parents, and especially when they get really old and all that kind of stuff. Kind of like my future, whatever that may be. I have a fur dog, a fur baby, not an actual baby. So I don't know what that looks like, but my family and empowering others is my reason why that I do what I do.
And you find that just drives everything, including I feel like your why is such a powerful thing, especially when you're tuned into it. In that when you're going through certain times or feel like you're about to quit or just don't really want to do it anymore, it's really nice to have, a compass and, a purpose, or feel like, there's a greater reason that I'm on this journey that helps you overcome anything. So
absolutely.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me, Xiomara. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It's just been a really fun talk.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Power of Why podcast. It is such a pleasure to bring forward women who are absolutely killing it in their industry. If anything resonated with you in this episode, make sure to put it in the comments or even reach out to me directly. So if you know any women, or if you are a woman who is doing incredible things in your community, send me a message. I'd love to chat.